Uh, yes, and take a big sip of water because water is important. We need that. I'm gonna do the same thing.
My friend, I'm ahead of you. I have a big sip of water and mint tea with plants from Romania. You couldn't get more natural than that. So I'm fully
Mm.
hydrated.
Plants from Romania. Did you handpick them yourself over there, or did you get them shipped?
I know a person with a good heart did that because you cannot
Ah,
pick up mint in an industrial way yet.
ah. I remember the best mint that I've ever had or ever tried was actually in Morocco because the way
Mm.
there they serve you tea is like with the fresh mint either from the mountains or from the coastal area. And no matter where you go in Morocco, if they have local herbs and local mints, it is always such an experience to taste it because every part of Morocco has a different tradition of making the mint tea, and every part of Morocco has a different way of serving you the mint tea. So that has been like one of the best experiences that I had when it comes to tea. But I guess tea is not the reason why we're on here today, my friend. How are you, Marius?
Uh, Enjoying a good cup of tea with over a conversation with a good friend. Been looking
Oh,
forward to
amazing.
this for a while.
Yeah, haven't we? Right? It seems like we've been planning on this episode for quite a while already, and we finally made it happen. And I'm super happy because you actually saved my day today with jumping in and confirming actually the appointment. So I'm really happy that we're finally getting to roll on this because I like one thing that you all got to know about Mario is like me and Marius we meet every once in a while, a couple of months, always in between. So we have enough stuff to talk about. And when we meet, is we never really have a reason. We just say, hey, let's meet and then let's see where the vibe goes. But
Mm.
me and you, we have this talent of just starting off on a tangent on any type of topic. It can be literally the what was the most absurd conversation starters that we had? I think it was trees, like why trees grow here in Luxembourg, right? And we went through the park, walked, and we
Yeah,
ended up like celestial
yeah, yeah.
microorganisms, cosmos, and like how the human dark side of the world works. And I just noticed I definitely have to turn off my WhatsApp here. Yeah, so we always go on a tangent, and it's always very interesting because you at your core you're an incredible human being. You are probably one of the most rational thinking and logical based people that I know in my surroundings. So I from my side, I'm a very emotion based person, so I can get into conversations with a lot of emotion, right? I get into them with a lot of emotion, a lot of heart, and I'm very passionate about what I talk, right? What I love about you, and that's why it's always been such a great complementation to a complementary work to or a gift to bring into the conversation is that you're that type of guy that says, all right, cut the bullshit, let's get down to the core. So what's the problem? So what I'm really hearing here is not the kind of Larry bullshit that you're trying to refer to, but actually I hear that there is a problem. Let's talk about that. And you always catch me, of course, man. You always catch me, of course, and it's a great way of I like everyone to have a friend like you around because you um just break down, you pierce to the core of a problem in a way that no other person that I know does it. Right. So again, just to mention it publicly here, kudos to you and thank you for being my friend and thank you for being such an incredible like mentor in a way and coach and friend most of all. Right. So that is something that I just wanted to let go of here. But to start it off, Marius, you are a coach, correct? You are a coach, and what you do is the same way as we are having conversations as friends. I assume that you have the same type of conversations with clients, right? So what is it exactly that you do, and
Mhm.
what makes you so passionate about what you do?
Having these moments, provoking these kind of moments in the other person.
Mm.
It's about this click that sometimes when you have a good conversation, when you know you're in a certain point in life, whether you're in a beautiful setting or at a concert, in a bar with people, family, whatever, you just have this insight, that click inside, you know, that makes you kind of see the world in a different way and just feel really good at your core. And I see yeah, you can call it coaching, but the work that I do and the work that I like to be done on myself is more like guiding, mentoring, teaching, coaching, asking the right questions, sharing the right kind of nuggets, personal stories, having good, deep, meaningful conversations. And that's just something beautiful to, when I see it happening in the conversations, because involuntarily, when you assume this kind of role, and you can be in any type, you can be a consultant, you can be a lawyer, because that's what I know, you can always offer something of value. And yeah, it's just so beautiful to witness that in another person. And yeah, but
it's a great way of putting it, actually. And something just popped into my mind. A person that we used to know and that we used to spend a little bit of time with in common. He used to bring up a concept to me which I really really like, and I've had a hard time remembering it for the past 3 years, but it just popped into my mind because he called himself a modern perceptor. Right? The word perceptor is a type of guide that is just walking behind you and not, leading you, not being in front
yeah,
of
yeah,
you, not pointing you in any direction, but it's just behind you. And that he's slowly, with one finger tapping on your back and just making you remember why you were here and why you're walking the path, right? Socrates, for example, was a perceptor to Alexander the Great, right? He was a perceptor to him who went in his, because Alexander the Great was one of the greatest leaders and greatest historic figures in our history that we know of, right? He conquered nearly the entire world next to Attila the Hun. But
there's a documentary on Netflix about it. It's a
it's
recent one, and have you seen it?
I've seen it, and it's a really fascinating one. One of my favorite movies used to be actually the movie Alexander the Great, which is, I think, back from beginning of the 2000s. A great movie which kind of depicts his life in a way. But Socrates used to be a preceptor for him, always guiding him and being just a friend. And that's the beautiful thing, a friend who is just there to show you what you are capable of without pointing you in any direction of what you should do. It's just a reminder that you have all of the resources and all of the skills and the knowledge
Exactly.
within you, and everything that you need to do is to take one step after the next. One step after the next, and the way will unravel, the way will show itself. And this concept of modern perceptor is such a beautiful concept. And this person that we both know, I don't know if you remember him, I don't want to mention his name here, but that person that we used to spend time with around 3-4 years ago, that used to train us in a lot of different areas of life,
I
right?
know exactly who you mean.
he,
Yeah, yeah.
he called himself a modern perceptor, and that concept to me was so beautiful, man.
It's so true. And to add to your point, it's about how you're able to see this in yourself and also help others see the things that they're missing, because it's a question of opening more, taking in more into the world, so expanding your awareness in that sense. But it's also how you are able to do that, because it's one thing to push a person, it's another thing to demonstrate, to lead by example, it's another thing to ask the right question, it's another thing to just be in a natural conversation and say, like, hey man, I'm really sorry you're going through this, seems
Mhm,
tough.
mhm,
Just holding that space
mhm,
can be that.
mhm,
So that's part of it, what I do. And yeah, you can call me, coach, whatever the title is, the training, the modalities, the hours of working, and the profile, whatever. You can go into the business terms of it, but you can also just, for me, it's more about the experience of it, and how it's done, from my part at least, from a place of, not only I know that's my, how to put this, it's like kind of like how I fit into this phase I'm in right, my life right now, but
mhm.
it's also enjoying the beauty of it and really pushing it forward, because that's what has been done to me in my journey so far by a lot of people, and my, let's say, all my life context. But it's like, we have to make the world a better place. Like, there's just so much going on, and it's easy to fall in a downward spiral. And I'm a busy guy. I have a 2-year-old, full-on toddler, businesses, job, my rhythm, and we talked about it. But there's one
Mhm.
thing that I wanted to go back to what you said. I don't see myself as a rational, logical person. And
Flat
honestly,
guy.
maths and logic were not my strongest points in school. I was always the humanistic type of guy.
What
So
do
it's a
you
very,
mean?
for real, like, I hated maths. Well, hated it. I was good at it, but I didn't
Uh-huh.
enjoy it. That's why I went into law and just blah, blah, blah. but it's I don't see myself as that, as even though a lot of people say that about me, because what you're saying is I've heard it before, and
Would you agree though with me? Would you agree though with me that the domain that you've chosen as your first career path is a very logical based domain, which is led by studying, knowing, and just narrating and solving problems in a rational manner that you have to explain, to prove, and to show to the world in order for it to be accepted? Would you agree with that at least?
for 100,000% sure.
Hmm.
I don't have any regrets about becoming a corporate international lawyer, whatever, and working really hard and having that life, because it taught me the skills. And I think that applies to every kind of job or whatever you're doing, whether you're a waiter and you learn how to talk to people and be respectful and joke around and organize it, whether you're an accountant, whether you are a lawyer, it doesn't matter. You just go for the skills of it. And that's what I've been telling, people that are, let's say, were asking me, how did you do this and quit and then start the business and then da. And I always say, like, focus on the skill.
Hmm.
What are you learning? What are you becoming better at? Or how
Hmm.
is that aligning with what you're naturally good at or you feel curious about? Where does your curiosity lead you? Because Joseph Campbell, one of my personal heroes, always says, like, follow your bliss. So
Hmm.
follow your bliss for me, it means simply, like, what lights you up, go there. And then if there's a way to bring economic value, in whatever form that is, all the more better. But it's
Hmm.
better than, sure, you can, be a waiter if you have to make money, for sure. But maybe there's a skill there that you can learn how to do. Maybe you know how we used to do at the office. We would upsell a lot of things. We would
Hmm.
make connections. We would open up other things. So networking may be the skill that you're developing. It's just that we're too
Mm.
busy complaining. Oh, I don't earn enough money. Clients are shit. The world is in a shitty place. So on and so forth.
Mhm.
So
Mhm, mhm, mhm. And I think in a certain way, it is important to have these characteristics within you because if you are just as a blunt example, me, you know me, right? I love because for example, I went to in school. One of my favorite topics with philosophy was philosophy. Why? Because it is a realm where the impossible becomes possible because it's just a theoretic realm where a lot of ideas can be
nice,
evaluated, it can be evolved into something greater, into concepts, right? And this domain has always been very dear to me, not specifically philosophy but the ideology of philosophy, right?
nice,
That's
nice.
why hence why I'm studying NLP, because NLP, for example, neuro linguistic programming, for those of you who don't know, is like a format that has been evolved in the 1960s by three students at the University of California who were like, actually, let's find out what successful people have in common and let's copy that trait. Let's
Hmm.
philosophize about the ideas, like what makes
Modeling.
them modeling exactly. And that's how the concept of modeling got created. Let's say we take the most successful people in different like psychological domains, such as like family therapy, Virginia Satir. We take Milton Erickson, who was one of the greatest hypnotherapists in the world, and we just look at what they do, and from what they do, we try to analyze, get down, break down, be creative, and see like because we can't be there to ask them, okay, write me down exactly what you do on a daily basis, but it's like, so this seems like it makes sense, that seems like it makes sense. And this concept of just modeling, looking at people that we aspire towards and just copy their entire framework and adapting it for ourselves, this is what real greatness is all about. And I think the point that I'm trying to make here is that in our society nowadays, people are modeling the wrong people. People are learning from a very young age to model the wrong type of characters, and they are adapting skills, ideologies, ways of thinking, ways of acting, behavior, manners. Oh, big one. We can talk about manners in our nowadays society for hours because it's a very heated topic for me. But they have the wrong type of models to look forward to. So what do we do to change this approach? We have to be the example. We have to, in whatever we do, lead with example and just become the best version of ourselves. Because I guess finding your bliss is like kind of finding your ikigai, finding what you love doing, finding what you're good at, and finding how you can contribute to the society. And from there on, we can live in this space and we can be the example for people to then say one day, hopefully our kids, well, actually, what he did is pretty freaking great. Let's see what happens if I just follow his way of thinking, his way of looking at things. So by that, you're setting an example.
It is the example. It is the process of how to do that. It is the realization of what you just said, of all the conditioning that we go through, starting from our earliest years. Like I look at David, like he's already being learning of certain reflexes and things that are conditioned into him, and we have to tell him that, you know, like you brush your teeth in the evening, you don't make with the spoon like this, you know, you throw the soup all over the place, and that starts when he was like 4 6 months, right? So there is the realization, then there is the process, then there is the problems. There's so much when it comes to someone's individual journey. But in my experience so far, and you know, we talked before about NLP, my personal experience looking back at the I'm like 34, right? So I'm almost like 16 years since I finished high school and then all of that. What I
Damn, you're
see,
old.
thank you. Thank you, and I take that as
Welcome.
a compliment.
You should.
At the same time, I'm wondering how many of the people listening or maybe watching this will have looked at me and wonder how old is this guy? You know, because I'm curious about that. And sometimes I make a joke, and with Joanna as well, my wife, even at work, if I shave and if I, you know, like prep myself up, because nowadays it's like what it's 9:30 p.m.
Mhm.
Then I look like a 27-year-old or something like that, you know, and you know they see me
Thank
coming
you.
by bike,
Thank
eating
you.
healthy and all that. So what I wanted to say going back is I see through all these years that all the decisions that I've made, all the opportunities that I responded to and that I attracted to me were somehow influenced by my curiosities. The
Mhm.
more I was doing what lighted me up and when I naturally felt at my best and I just got into a flow of it, it's like things starting aligning. People notice opportunities, money, advancements, you know, all sorts of surprises started
Mhm.
happening. But
Mhm.
the single guiding common factor, because I wasn't asking myself like, oh, what kind of bullshit rules did my parents teach me? I wasn't asking myself that at 27. I was
Mhm.
just freaking doing the best I could to get
Of
my
course.
business off the ground then.
Of course.
And of course that's the time when I started listening to podcasts, you know, to Rich Roll, to getting a lot into healthy stuff, mindset work, reading, having a meditation practice. That's exactly when it happened, you know, 2016 for me, 2017. So I wasn't asking the right questions. I didn't have anyone then behind my back, the modern preceptor that you spoke about before. I was just learning, modeling in a way, and doing what it felt naturally good and I was curious about. And then things started expanding and shifting.
Mhm.
So sometimes you don't need all these ingredients. Sometimes we don't need to ask the right questions. We just need to keep doing. And I think if we align that doing into our curiosities, our strengths, our passions, our talents, and so on, then like the saying, you know, doors will start opening up in the least way you are expecting
I
it.
I've recently from my last episode I've mentioned that quote already, and I love it. It's from William Shakespeare, and it says that in nature nothing is inherently good or bad. It is our thoughts
Mm,
that make it so. So if you think about that concept, that
yeah.
nothing in nature is actually good or bad. Our brain, our mind is the single reason why we think certain thoughts, one,
Yes.
why we perceive certain situations, two, and why we give those certain situations and thoughts meaning. And that
Absolutely.
meaning is based
Absolutely.
upon our own, the perception that we have of ourself. So if you
Absolutely.
are inherently a person that was raised up in a loving family, there was always support, there was healthy boundaries, there was healthy communication, you have a very positive outlook into the world. Meaning that whatever you look at, most, not everything, most things that you look at, you will look at them from a positive state of mind. If you now, or from a positive viewpoint, and you can actually do and create positive things out of it, you can share this positivity. On the other hand side, if you are getting out of well, you've had a childhood that was rather traumatizing,
Mm-hmm.
parents separated. Maybe there was a lot of fighting in the house. Maybe your
Mm-hmm.
words were downgraded or kind of down talked. You couldn't express what you truly wanted to. You hold back. And maybe there was even some violence or some other traumatic experiences. Obviously, you view the world as evil of whatever you've perceived in your childhood. So, like this, nothing is at its base positive or negative. It's just the circumstances which make our or which give our life meaning. So, if I reference this now to what you said, it's just walking the path one step after the other and not right away criticizing, not right away judging whatever comes in front of you, but just walking through it literally. And then once it's passed, you can look at it and see, did it have a positive impact on me? Did it have a negative impact on me? And what if both happened at the same time? Well, then it just happened, right? A bad relationship, a bad choice, a bad career path. Those are not inherently good or bad. Those are just, things that we took because at that moment they seemed logical to us. And in hindsight, we look back then and say, well, actually, it's just exactly the way that I was destined to walk. And it's not bad or good because it led me to exactly the point where I'm at right now. Would you agree with that?
It's it's nice that you're saying that, Tim. I'm just curious, how are you doing this in practice? How is this working out for you?
Oh, I can
Like,
I can I can share it. I can share it right away.
before even you share it, because I think it's asking this kind of questions, because we all kind of know the theory or maybe have a sense of it, or maybe tend to be stuck in our ways. But it's more like, okay, even if you know what you should be doing, how are you actually doing it, and how are you um, acting despite the challenges, despite all the negativity and the pressures that you're up against.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's beautiful to share your way, just like I have my way, and I'm sure everyone has their ways, and we keep learning from each other, because that's the point of all sharing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just this curiosity I'm always up with, like, how is he kind of doing it? Not because I want to copy that. Okay, maybe to the right the points that are good, for modeling, whatever. But more like, let me see, what am I missing? What am I not seeing? If I was
Mm-hmm.
in your shoes, or if you were on mine, how would I act? How would I see the world from there?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a very powerful tool that we are,
Mm-hmm.
because we are so disconnected. Like, look at us. We last met, what was it, end of February, I think. And
Yeah, it's
before
been
that, I
6 months.
think it was
Yeah.
before last year, like September maybe, or something like that. So it
Mm-hmm.
takes us so much to just get
Mm-hmm.
together.
Mm-hmm.
And with family as well. Like, I'm from Romania originally, so I see my family. I don't travel that much right now with David and all that, but we're more disconnected. We don't have the stories, the people, the I don't know, the campfire to sit around and just share. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I miss this so much, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's just something that I felt right now, and I wanted to share.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing, man. Thank you for sharing. Um, if I can take up again on your question, because if that is a question that
Yeah,
you're
yeah, yeah,
willing to
for sure,
discuss
go
right
for it.
now, I would love to hear. I would love to share my way of looking at things, and it's actually probably not what you expect from to hear from me right now, because I laugh while thinking, constructing my way back, like kind of doing reverse engineering on the steps that I've taken so far. But nonetheless, after I shared, I would love to hear your way of approaching it, because I guess that's how we can learn from each other. So the funny thing is, like, that you know me, I've only started, and I can only account from the age of 19 onwards, because for some reason before that I was just in my life doing whatever comes in the moment.
Yeah,
I
like
was
everyone.
always taking the path of least resistance. I was
Yeah.
always doing the things who were challenging me the least. I was a very lazy in life person. I had good intentions. I had no direction, but I was a good person, right? And from the
And you
age of
were also
9,
comfortable.
I was very comfortable. And this comfort still haunts me in a certain way, right? Because that's just most of my years of my life, I've been like this. So I'm
Yeah.
now rewiring my brain slowly, bit by bit, of getting there, right? So from the age of 19 on, I started reading my first book I've ever read. Before, I've read one time.
What
Uh,
was it?
Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. I've read the entire manuscript within a day because I was obsessed by what I've heard, because I understood that there is a world out there that is so contrary to what I was used to and so contrary to what I thought life would be. It opened not one, but billions of doors at the same time, and it gave me the opportunity to look and sneak peek into all of them, right? So from that moment onwards, I started uh, reading and becoming obsessed, literally obsessed with books, right? I have a small library here. I think I've read in the last 10 years close to, I would say, around 400 books, right? Overall, so far, which within the last 10 years is okay. You know, it's not a lot, but it's okay for what I esteem to be my average now. But in hindsight, to make it short, because I don't want to take too much time on this, is that I look back now of how do I manage this? How do I actually walk? Well, I can tell you how I walk. I function. I used to function a lot due to my upbringing, my personal traumas, my personal conditioning that I was experiencing throughout my childhood, which was, ingrained in a lot of self doubts, lack of self love due to the lack of a father figure in my life. Right, this male substance, strength, groundedness, direction, desire, passion, determination to get things done was just not very there. And I kind of deemed the masculine side within me for a lot of years, making me a very emotion based person, a very emotionally intelligent person. I used to have a lot of empathy, compassion. Like those traits I developed quite well, right? So my first reaction, if I walk my path and things happen, and they happen not in my favor, but to, let's say, the worst, to the worst type of
Yeah, yeah.
situation, I panic. I freak out, I have anxiety, I go into the state of like, I have no idea what to do right now, I can't move, I'm like stuck,
Yeah, yeah,
it's the freeze type of condition, it's the
yeah, yeah.
freeze type of situation. um so I freeze, and from that freezing onwards, it takes a lot of emotional processing. I didn't have, or I just until recently, I would say in the last 2 years, 3 years, I've taught myself a lot of great ways in that aspect. But I freeze, I panic, and I am in this state for an extended period of time until I then have enough time in between where my brain realizes, okay, I'm not going to be eaten. I'm not going to be killed. I'm not going to die.
Oh,
I'm not going to die. Well, duh, obviously, but I'm not going to die. So let's maybe read about how I can figure this out. And then once I logically construct, the panic goes away, the emotional brain kind of switches off, and it's like, actually, we're good. We're in a safe space. Nothing bad will happen. Let's just
how long
rationally
does it take?
construct. Let's just
How
rationally
long?
construct the path.
I'm curious, how long does it take you right now to do this? Like, just give a rough estimate. I don't know, maybe a recent challenge that you've had, like something that was quite significant, or like a pushing up against you,
But
and
if
then
if if back in the days, I would say it would take me days, if not even weeks, to kind of like figure
Mhm.
it out. By now, I would say I'm pretty confident on like maximum a day or two, like maximum a day or two, right? That it really bothers me. I mean, maximum meaning on
Yeah, yeah.
average, I would say I'm like, I panic, I feel bad, I know what kind of um, trigger is being pushed, and I know how to down regulate it again by going to the gym, going for a walk, doing some breath work, doing some parasympathetic nervous system work, right? To just calm myself down. And from that state onwards, it's much easier to access that logical, rational mind that just helps me to understand the problem and solve it. So anywhere between an hour to a day by now, right?
You know what? I hope someone listening to this podcast, or maybe you and me, who knows, or whatever. I just wish the opportunity would present itself to for me or someone. I don't care, to create like this idea that I have in my mind since I started. When COVID started,
Mm-hmm.
actually, like the things that we weren't taught in school, like
Mm-hmm.
this kind of perpetual kind of wisdom, and what you're saying, like, of course, like do the good things for your body, surround yourself with the right people, do all these practices, think like this, this is for me like the school of life that we actually never got. These are like I see them just like I was taught. I spent years learning geography and chemistry and whatever history instead of learning the actual skills of life. When I think about David, especially now, with and we talked about this with AI and the kind of world that is going to be with us very soon, and he's going to live in. I just see, please, we need more of this in a easy, accessible, freely, distributed freely or whatever way, so that more people can understand that it is possible. The knowledge is there, and there are people doing it. And all we need to do is just open it up and just give it a try, because otherwise we just stay stuck in the same swamp, in the same place that you were describing. And I think I was not in the same reaction, but I had my own path to go on, and yeah, I just hope I'm gonna see it this school of life happening sooner rather than later.
So how was it for you? How do you process situation? How do you work?
Different phases, Tim. I mean, it's really last thing I shared with you was this episode with my brother, which was very intense. I can, I can share about it briefly. My brother is 6 years older than me, and he had a major burnout, depressive episode in February. He just left for shopping on a Sunday at 10, and then he never came back. And his girlfriend called me like, "Where's Radu?" Like, and he went into a very, very dark place. So it was very tough, shock to everyone. Something like that is the kind of things that you don't know how to process. You all the tools, all the knowledge is not there when life just really smacks you in the face. So that's very different than, like getting some bad news or whatever, a friend saying something, or you not getting whatever it is, it puts things into perspective. So I would say it really depends a lot on the scale and also about the life context that we have. But now to sum it up, it's more like just do the things that feel good in a good way, like what lights you up. And I try to guide myself with that. And sure, I also do the bad stuff. I'm also human, I'm not able always to start breathing and meditating. All I need is just some sleep, but I also need some distraction. We are humans. Just like
100%.
let's accept that imperfect struggle that we have to go through, but keep our eyes open, because all the things in the world, like, they cannot help you if you are fighting yourself.
100%.
And for me, that's the hardest part. Like, I remembered so many times in the last year, because I've also had this challenge. In September, I had another challenge that about, and I'm not going to go into right now.
No, you don't need to.
I had a lot of stuff, and all throughout this period, I kept reminding myself to stop being so hard on myself, to also kind of support myself, to say like, yo, good job, buddy. To pat myself on the back.
You taught me that. Remember in February, you taught me that. You were standing outside and you said, "Tim, look at that land in front of you. Take a step, and then look back from where you came from and do this.
Yeah.
Take your hand, because you really deserve it. And every single one of you listening right now, you should do the same thing right now, because no matter where you're on your path, look back at how many years you've made it. Look back at how many miles you've walked. Look back at how many challenges you've successfully faced, and look at how many are still in front of you, and maybe some are not successfully faced, but it doesn't matter. Like, take your hands, whatever hands your preferred hand is, and just lift it up, and then move it over your head. And once you've moved it over your head, like,
put it on your shoulder.
Put it on your shoulder and tap, and be like,
"Good boy.
Good boy.
Good boy. You did well."
I hope you can hear the tapping right now, because that's what we're doing, and I think people should do that way more often. Because this is I love what you just said, the imperfection. And if I can just quickly blend into another topic, I would love to keep on your track, right?
No,
I really like this. I really love where we're going with this. But one example that just came up in my mind, and an episode that I recorded with David, the one that I sent you, David Roden, incredible human being, all about the topic of, health optimization, nutrition, fitness, and how to just live a balanced life, right? We talked about how nowadays, unfortunately, in the world of unlimited information, unlimited access to information, everyone wants to be superhuman, right? Everyone wants to improve their health, improve and find. Everyone wants to live forever. Personally, we've had that discussion. I don't want to live forever. Like, fuck that. I'm sorry. I don't want to live forever. I prefer having, and that's not the point here, right? But I'm still on a little rant. I don't want to live forever, but I want to have a great life and at a certain point have an end, because that's what makes life really meaningful. If you have a beginning and an end, if it's never ending, how the fuck do you know that you had a great life? Because at a certain point, it just gets boring. Anyway, that's not the point. Well, the point that I'm trying to make is that everyone wants to be superhuman and wants to optimize and wants to live forever. And one example...
Self-improvement for the sake of self-improvement.
Yeah, for the sake of self-improvement. And one example that comes to my mind, because in my friend group, we are big into biohacking and big into health optimization. And one person that comes into mind is Brian Johnson. I don't know if you know Brian Johnson, right? With for those of you who don't know him, you should Google him. He's like this guy that made hundreds of millions of dollars with a company. He sold it, and now he spends literally $3 million a month.
No, I think it's a year.
A year, sorry, $3 million a year on the perfect health protocol. Like, this guy literally takes 60 to 70 pills every single day. He does his blood work every single day. He optimizes. He works with professionals.
He wants to live to 120 or 140, and he's 54 or something like that, if I remember.
And no hate on him, really. I mean, it's incredible. But he himself, because he has turned a stone, he has kicked a stone into rolling down a hill, that now everyone wants to get into this. But he himself, like, if you listen to him, he himself says that, yes, I want to optimize my health. Yes, I want to, prove to science that this and this is possible if you live the perfect health protocol, the superhuman protocol, he calls it, right? But he says that he wouldn't recommend anyone to do it, because the sacrifices that you have to make in order for this to happen is you have to give up every single joy or sin or downtracking, and I want to have some M&Ms right now, I want to have a steak with some big fries. He's like, nope, right? And
I need to just put a pause, because there are 3 quick things that I have to riff off of and really make it quick. But even with Brian Johnson, hold your idea, because when we're on the topic, before we even mention him, and this is just to show the synchronicity that we have in thought sometimes, before you mentioned, you were saying about how you'd rather have a short, well-lived life rather than a long one, right? And that goes to that discussion we had about AI and the what that may look like, whatever. And then a colleague at work showed me this interview that Brian Johnson recently did on this podcast, Dr. Schultz. I don't remember. I never saw the guy before, but he just showed me this clip where this interviewer asked Brian Johnson, what is the point of living such a long life if will you enjoy the things the same way if you're living such a long life? Something around those lines. I'm paraphrasing, but you get the question, right? Am I making sense? And Brian Johnson, because this guy, Tistas, told me, like, because he's listening as well, he was like, look at this. And then Brian Johnson get asked this question, like, do you enjoy the same things if you know you're going to have a long life? And he just goes silent. And you see him starting to compute. And it took him 5 seconds silence. And I was like, whoa, now there's a question for the dude. And you know what he said? He said something like, it's hard for me to answer this right now. Really have to think about it. Something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing again. And it really was a nice, struck a nice chord with me. And I thought about that statement. That's why I say that it's so funny that you brought up Brian Johnson.
Yes.
Because that's and people listening can look this up, because it's just, it's one of these questions that are like, wow. Yeah, but that's just to close off one thing, and there are 2 other things, but yeah.
I mean, do you want to go on with these other 2 things?
The other thing that, and you can come back to that, is mentioning how we can, like, the first thing that I said is, like, we did the exercise on tapping on the back. For a while now, I've been practicing, well, for a while, like 2-3 years, I think, 2 years more like, another simple exercise that I tell everyone I'm working with, friends, people who listening, whatever, in the morning. Like, when you wake up and you go in the bathroom and you wash your face, whatever, and you look in the mirror and you just have that 3 to 5 seconds in the mirror. Just take a nice deep breath, smile. Good morning, beautiful. How
You look
doing?
phenomenal today.
Superstar.
Yeah.
But make it like, initially it's gonna seem like so fake, so hard, so but honestly, some mornings, because I'm not doing this every morning, and not every morning I'm like, ugh, another shitty day, But some mornings, and more often than not, if you are able to put more on the plus side, some mornings I'm like, really like, yo, I love you. Good morning, beautiful. And it sets the tone for the day in a different way.
Yes.
Like,
yes. One thing that I would love to add on to this is that that Tony Robbins has been one of the greatest inspirations for me, and he has been the reason why I got into. I got super curious into the world of neurolinguistic programming because he's a master at it, right? He actually started back in the 1980s,
83, 87.
back in the 1980s, where he visited a seminar of Richard Bandler on neurolinguistic programming, and he was doing his practitioner. He was getting into his practitioner studies. I think they were called different back in the days, but he was that type of guy, and that's why I love him. Is that he didn't like, after his first 3 hours in that course, he got up and he literally just said, well, this is freaking amazing what I'm just learning right now. I have to go out right now and I have to test it on people. So he literally stood up from that seminar. He went out into the streets and he literally just talked to people, and he created this phenomena around him, because he just went to people and said, like, no matter whatever problem you're dealing with right now, I can heal you. I can show you your solutions right now. Are you willing to work with me right now? And he did it for free in the beginning, right? But that's just like the reason why I started loving Tony Robbins so much, because he was just this prodigy into this world, right? And the way that he does it, something that he does really, really well. If I've unfortunately never had the opportunity to go to one of his great events with thousands of people, but not only is he able to shift 10,000 people during 7 days to, at the end of them, walk on fire or bend like swords on their necks, right? Just through the power of thought alone. But one thing that he became very famous for is his great the power of priming, right? Priming is a certain ritual that you set up for yourself. It's your personal, the most personal thing that you can have for yourself, right? You know how our brain works in neurological connections, and everything that fires together wires together. So whatever you repetitively do, you set new neurons in your brains, like synapses and neurons, to wire together. And the more often they wire together, they build a very strong bridge and connection. So whatever you repeatedly do, you become. And whatever you repeatedly do becomes your thought patterns, your actions, your habits, your rituals, your life eventually. So how you do anything is how you do everything, meaning that set yourself, because this is, for example, what I do in the morning. My mornings, I haven't had a bad morning in years. And I kid you not. Why? Mornings are my prime time. It's a ritual for me. Why? Because I don't get up and I'm like, woo, today is going to be a phenomenal day, right? I don't pseudo talk into it, but I just have my rhythm that I practice every single morning, which is very simple. I get up, I make my bed, I go to the bathroom, I wash my face with cold water, I get myself a coffee. On the weekends, I sit myself down right again to read a book, or during the week, I get into the car and I turn on a podcast or some music, depending upon the day, and then I drive to work. And I do this. It sounds super simple, but in doing this and it's very easy for me to follow this because it's like the most natural thing that I do every single day. Just by me following this protocol, I've trained myself to believe and to think and to put myself into a state of this. When I follow this protocol, the reaction is that I will have a great day. I will have a great morning. It's as simple as that, right? This sounds a little bit complicated to some people right now because, like, well, he's just getting up and he's making a bed. But I set to myself this condition: if I do X, Y, Z, which is a natural rhythm that I do every single day, and I follow this rhythm, which is so hard not to do because, right, I've just primed myself into it. I know my mind switches over to, all right, release of dopamine, release of endorphins, release of like serotonin, and I'm just in this state of bliss. So I can't tell you when I've had last a bad day because this state of priming, like for example, I listen to a certain type of music in the morning. I know when I listen to something that gets my mind to think in the morning early, like a podcast, like Joe Rogan, for example, with a little bit of humor, I arrive at work. And even if the day at work is shit, even if I've only slept a couple of hours, that time from when I wake up to when I'm at work sets the tone for my entire day. So I cannot tell you when I've last had a bad morning. Literally.
Isn't it ironic? Isn't it ironic that you're saying this while a couple of minutes ago you were talking about how there's this perception or expectation in society that we can become superhuman?
Yes, but I would very hardly differentiate that. Because becoming
I know
superhuman,
you would.
superhuman for me is like taking it to a different extent, scientifically speaking. But when it comes to what is your definition of super, right? Because I'm just being human. I'm just having a good time at being human.
I think before you even define super, you have to define what's your average, because super is a relative to something else.
Mm-hmm.
So we all of us have this default that is our average, and that can be influenced by where you grew up, where you are living right now, the economic situation, mostly social, because if you are of color, of a different ethnicity, religion, then obviously this attracts some things on you in your life.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a question of what's your average, I think, what's your default, and what would be greater than average, what would be really nice, cool, wow, exciting, super. So we have a lot of in betweens, I guess. But of course, like it may sound, that's why I'm thinking this is just a comparison, that an artificial one that we're making in our minds. Because for someone, like for me, what you're describing is absolutely kind of, I won't call it normal, but it's more like, yeah, that's the kind of, yeah, I know that, I've been there. That's the kind of people that I like to surround myself with.
Of course.
But at the same time, I know from my brother, for example, he would listen to this, and I don't know, maybe I'll send him the episode. He will. For him, I'm pretty sure this might really sound like, yeah, but it's superhuman, or this is weird, because he would also wake up in the morning, do the same kind of routine actions, get himself a coffee, and then drive to work. So it's the same external life context, the same mechanistic ritual, but what is the mindset difference? What is the consciousness behind it? What is your perception of reality? How do you see these things? What do you choose? What do you choose to believe? And what's your state, right? Like your physical state, but also your emotional and your vibratory one, your intellectual, your spiritual state. So there's so many things tied into that. But yeah, I guess that's part of the journey, right? Like that's why you're doing this, and that's why we're sharing this, right? So
100%.
It's the question.
100%.
And to flip it in a more funny side, and again, go on a different tangent. What I wish most people like you, my friend, because I used to be there where you are perfectly set up in the morning and thinking well and nicely, all running smooth and in control of my time. I wish you, can you guess what?
The best in the world. Because I would wish you the same, man.
I that's entirely what I'm wishing to you. The way the package for that comes in the form of wait till you have kids, my friend. Wait till you have a newborn that is interrupting and entering your perfectly kind of bubbleized physical, mental, emotional, blah, blah, routine. And even before that, it's wait until you move in with someone and you have a real relationship, and you test each other out, and then you find that way of being together and creating something greater than your individual selves. Because what you're saying sounds very nice and cool if you're basically living in a bubble. Let's put it like that. Right?
Ooh, I know. I love where this is going.
But this is where it's ending. Like, wait till you are in a relationship, and it doesn't have to be a relationship. Yeah, sure, that can be a challenge. But wait, like, look, there's so many conflicts. There's so much stuff going on in the world. Wait till you lose your job. Wait till something big or bad happens that pushes you in such a way that you don't have any other choice but to grow in the sense of pain or change. Because it's one way or another, you're forced to grow out of your current context. So a relationship can be that. Then wait till you have a baby, a kid, because that baby will grow up. Like we talked before this, like there's no morning routine. My morning routine, I can show you right now, is David wakes up without like any natural alarm around 7 to 7:30, and he drops on the floor, gets down from his bed and comes into our bed, and then he starts climbing over us and lands with his ass on my face. And that's my wake up. And he starts kicking me and hitting me or kissing me and saying like, good morning, daddy. Did you sleep well? And then he wants something. It's always crazy, it's a very fun, loving, and I'm like often, wow, this is incredible. But then maybe something pisses him off, or he, so yeah, that's what I wish you, my friend. And I think it will be a beautiful step for you, but also for a lot of people.
I really appreciate you bringing this up, and I really appreciate you sharing this with me. None of the less, I would still disagree with what you're saying. I agree with you. I agree with you to the point where you say like, yes, I am a single man. I don't have children, right? I don't have a house to pay a massive credit, right? I don't have like I live in this bubble. Yes, I live next to the freaking forest, right? It's absolutely beautiful here. It's gorgeous.
We
It's
are
like,
privileged.
of course, we are privileged. We are privileged. Yet, and this is the big yet. I have a strong feeling that this excuse that you're coming up with, and I know excuse is a big word. And let me explain and just like justify why I'm saying
what specifically do you refer to as excuse?
The excuse, or to say that well, this only occurs to you because you are in this bubble, in this perfect bubble where everything is good, where everything is perfect. Well, no, wait.
I get what you're going.
Let me continue.
Yeah.
That's a utopic idea. Like I have days where I feel sick in the morning. I have days where I, for example, went to bed with a really bad fight with someone, with a partner that I used to have. I used to have one of the worst phone calls on my way to work. Right? I don't have a kid, and I will not know this until I have a kid, obviously. And this is where we can, disagree with each other. I would love to challenge that thought that only within a bubble this perfect schema, this perfect rhythm is possible. Because when it comes to you setting up a prime and us being neurological beings, we have the power to not only stick to one thing and one thing only for the rest of our life, and this will be the way that it will work and no other way, but we have the power to transform whatever we set as triggers and whatever we set as primers. We can redefine this priming state however we want to have. As an example, for example, you say, well, I would love to have a perfect morning where I wake up and maybe, make love to my wife in the bed, and then wait, and then maybe like David comes in and then he sits on my face, and then whatever happens in the morning. Maybe that priming can include certain aspects of you, appreciating and being grateful in the first thing in the
That's
morning,
it.
right? You wake up in the morning
That's it.
and he sits on your bed and it's like, thank God he sat on my face. What a beautiful
That's
thing. Of
it.
course, in the first moment you're tired, but then you appreciate this simple thought, and this can become a trigger for your priming. This can be a sign. None of the less it's hard and you're tired and you're not in the mood to like have him around in the morning. But this aspect, and that's the neurological trigger that you can set for yourself. If you say, if he comes in the morning, that is a check mark for me. I have all of, like, I know that I'm feeling grateful and I'm happy because he's coming in the morning, right? Maybe one day he leaves the house and he is old enough to leave, right? And you have more time and it's only you and your wife. Maybe then you get into this bubble, maybe not. But we can decide for ourselves what these neurological triggers are to create this prime state. And you can set it up for yourself. It doesn't have to be one order. It can be out of 5 things if 2 happen, which means
My
I
friend.
kiss my wife and I get to look myself in the mirror in the morning and tap my back. That's a reason for me to have a great day or to feel good in that moment, right? That's what I
Get
would, for example, argue, you know?
Of course, man, but it's just to to sum it up in a different way, because I have been doing this out of a different reason, and that's the
Mhm,
beauty of going on this journey constantly, in the sense of just exploring life.
mhm,
That happened out of love,
mhm,
purely. I didn't even have to think about that.
mhm,
There's 2 points to this. First, I wasn't saying like, yeah, it's an excuse. Well, an excuse. It's you can have routines when you're in a bubble. No, for me now I see that as, can you think like that and adapt your life with whatever circumstances there come? Because if you
mhm.
can only do one thing in a certain context, then you're limited. You're not really growing.
100%.
So it's more like, because even from when he was born, I had even more time, no motivation to invest in ways of being at my best, of really being present, giving, doing, working, coaching, training physically, like a lot of stuff, and being sleep deprived.
Mhm,
So it's more like it upped my game because I had the motivation, because I had this boost that love gives you in a way that I cannot describe intellectually, Tim.
mhm,
That
mhm,
is the
mhm,
thing. That's
mhm,
why I wish all the good in the world to you in this form,
mhm,
because love has a power that is exponential in that sense. Like
mhm,
there's no limit to what I would do, and
mhm,
that I am doing, knowing that I have a kid to take care of and a family, because my relationship with Joanna is part of that.
mhm,
So it comes from that place, and there's always ways of doing it. It's just allowing ourselves to not take ourselves so serious, and to not go for always the uh, rational, let's say, or the programmatic, all of that. Yeah, those are super tools at the right time. They're super tools. I'm not discarding them. I'm
mhm,
just saying that there's so much more than we think, because we don't let ourselves experience it, because we take ourselves so seriously. That has been my biggest pain teacher,
mhm.
and that's a term that I like from Paul Chek. But it's a good teacher. It's a really good one.
So how does one get, and first of all, I really appreciate you saying this. And again, I didn't want to, I only liked to go a little bit in the argument against it
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah. No, you
I
did
do
very
believe
well.
that there is a certain base level that we can decide for ourselves. Again, with adapting to circumstances, with creating more mental resilience to be able
For
to
sure.
hold a frame for longer. This happy frame, happy again is a very vague term, right? But this like loving and life
Yes.
appreciating frame around you for longer, no matter what happens around you. I think this is the state that I would like to refer to. And now my
Yeah.
question to you, and now
Yeah.
my question to you, because I love the quote that you just mentioned from Paul Check. So how can one create a, let's call it, larger and more resilient container for himself in his life?
Follow the pain.
Follow the pain and what to do with the pain if you're, let's
There's,
say,
a simple way. I think I get where you're going with this, but like, again, Paul Check, not sure if you're familiar, but he has these amazing episodes in the beginning of his podcast, Living 4D. It's called How to Evolve Yourself Physically, Mentally, Emotionally, Spiritually. And he basically gives these master classes that I would highly recommend to you as well. It's like 1 hour and a half, like whoa, like how to call it? If we were talking about school of life, this would be something you would teach 12th graders. Like it's like the top of the top, let's say. And one of the things that he pointed out, and that I resonated with a lot more, is that we grow when we are in pain. Because if you look back at all your moments in life, the best moments came when you overcame some challenges or difficulties and you became better while going through pain and discomfort. You didn't get better when you achieved something that was kind of validated from outside. You got better by going through the pain. And pain is in any way or shape it comes, whether in your body, in your career, in your relationships, in your finances, whatever. It's this discomfort that we have. So if you go there, if I went there every time and I ask myself, how am I contributing to this? How am I complicit to creating the results and the situation I say I don't want? And to understand this, there's another quote, going into quote wars, but I think they just contain so much wisdom in few words. Like, life will present you with people and circumstances to show where you are not free. Life will tell you exactly the where you are not free by bringing the people and circumstances in your life to show that. It's Peter Crone as well, a really interesting way of explaining things he has. But it's exactly there. Go there, and then you will become stronger. Because that's where you grow. It's like in the gym, and we had this conversation. If you're really good at bench press, but you have skinny legs, do you call yourself fit? No. You don't. But then when you start working on your legs and you learn to love your legs and the pain, and you start seeing the growth, that's when you become more self-confident, more powerful, more in your core. And you see the progress there much faster, because if you're barely able to squat with 20 kilograms on your back, then when you squat 100, you see the progress. But going from, I don't know, bench pressing 80 to 90 or 100 is not that much of a progress. So your limitations, mind, pain, those contexts and people that are, testing us and creating discomfort, I think that's the source of growth. Like, honestly.
I resonate a lot with what you're saying there. For me, and my way of looking at things, like I've been heavily invested into the gym, and I'm a big proponent of the saying that how you do anything is how you do everything. Like how you handle one area of your life is will translate over to any other area of your life that you wish for it to translate over. And for me in the gym, I realized as well. I've had some great improvements over the last 2 years when it comes to physical pain endurance, right?
Yeah.
And I realize, and that's a very contradictory thing, but it makes so much sense at the same time, is that on days where I've had the most stress, on days where I've had the most pain at work, in days where I've had the most emotional, bothersome news that have come up to me, and it really just shook me, and it really just pounded me into the ground, right? And those days where I felt the most pain, those were the greatest workouts that I've ever had. Don't ask me why. It's just there is so much stuck energy, and at the end of the day, it's still energy that you can transfer and transform into something new and something beautiful, right? And that's what pain is. Pain is just that energy that is stuck, that is giving you the opportunity to transform it. Same as winter is there for the summer blossom to die and to recover and be reborn again into something even better, and to evolve. And this is exactly what gym is for me. Like on those days where I've had good days, I've had the greatest and the heaviest workouts ever, and I get home after that and I feel great. So it's just the transference of energy on a certain level, right?
You know what's so funny about this? Because I think 2 weeks ago or so, Joanna was saying something about David Goggins.
Mm-hmm.
And when she had her Iron Man phase, she was reading all the stories, the biographies, everything about triathletes, ultra marathoners, endurance sports. So she was reading like all their biographies, like really getting herself pumped up and motivated before she had her Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about Goggins on and off, because with his push it if you're hard, don't let that bitch voice come in, how
Gotta
he talks.
embrace the suck.
Suck, embrace the suck, yeah, yeah.
Embrace the suck.
And he recently gave an interview with the renowned Huberman, which I'm not sure if you know his scandal with being with 6 women at the same time.
Who? Huberman.
Andrew Huberman. Mm-hmm. You
Oh
don't know
wow.
this?
No.
Man, it's like the craziest rage all over the internet. Like 4 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, a New York Times article appeared on how an investigation on him, on how he, from 2020 up until now, he was basically with multiple women, 6, not all of them in committed relationships, but with them at the same time, doing all his work and traveling and scheduling, and all of them thought he was basically cheating all of them, but not with one, with 5 others.
That is something very new to me, and I have to look into that after that because I actually love Andrew. Andrew, if you're listening to
Man,
this, I
I'm
still want to get you on the
surprised.
podcast. I love you.
But man,
Wow.
it's crazy. There's so many nice touches with this, but this is crazy because like the dude, like there's all the rage on the internet how he is basically not saying anything. He's like acting like none of this happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's everyone is like shouting and like how can you still be credible? What kind of person are you on this? And he was basically like being with one, flying out to the other, not texting them, and so on and so forth. Like and all of them thought he was just ghosting them or kind of like too busy. And everyone knew this about him. But basically the dude was a machine. And the funny joke on Twitter is like the dude is the proof that his biohacking protocols work. How can you be with 6 women at the same fucking time? You've got to be crazy.
Oh wow. Sometimes one is
6.
even enough to handle, but
Mhm.
6? That's crazy. That's
That's
mad.
what I thought as well, and
That's
that's why the
mad.
joke is so good.
Oh wow.
Anyway, so you will have fun reading about this and check
Yes,
out
I
his
will.
account. Check out his account as well to see on the comments on all his posts. Like people are saying, like, how can you not even address anything or not
I
even apologize?
I don't read comments, and probably he doesn't
It
either,
doesn't
and he
matter.
probably doesn't either, and that's the cool thing about it.
It's interesting, but it goes to another point about what kind of person and what does integrity mean to you.
Mhm,
Because
mhm,
I can get with the point that this doesn't compromise his scientific background and the way he shares his information and podcast guests and so on and so forth. But
mhm,
it does cast a shadow on what kind of the person he is to me. Because
mhm,
it's more like you cannot be how you do one thing is how you do everything. My friend, you just said it.
mhm,
Like, what kind of person are you that does something like this and you don't say anything to anyone and no one knows?
mhm,
So, to put that on a side note, anyway, going back to this David Goggins podcast that he recently did with Huberman, like Huberman had him on the show, like,
mhm,
I don't know, a month ago or 2 months ago. Huberman was saying something really interesting about motivation and the point that you made about gym and doing the things that are hard and so on. He said that there was this recent study that found that there was an area in our brain that grows only when we do the shit we don't like.
mhm,
Only when we do the shit that is hard, the things, the practices, the exercises, the situations, whatever, that we find discomforting and painful. And the example was if you like going to the gym, you will not increase your motivation, your resilience, your willpower, your confidence by
mhm,
doing something you like.
mhm,
You will grow by running or swimming or playing badminton or whatever it is, or painting. For me, that would be the hardest. Because,
mhm,
of course, I love going to the gym and on a bike ride and all that, but
mhm.
it's not the hard stuff.
No.
And he said that with these studies, like this part of our brain, the whatever singular cortex, blah, blah, I only grows in those moments. not in the other ones. And that is like the scientific seat of willpower.
Wow.
And Goggins was the right person to understand this, because he was constantly saying about, you know what, I wake up in the morning, my knees hurt, my back hurt, and I say, fuck it, I'm gonna go run 20 kilometers, whatever, 20 miles. You know? So to your point about loving it, going to the gym, yeah, you made it in the context of discharging and releasing, which is very good, super healthy, fully support that. But when you're having a good day, if then you're going to the gym, then you're basically just doing what you like. You're not really growing.
100%.
You know what I mean? That was an interesting piece of insight that I had, because going back to the pain, to the point about the pain teacher, that's when we grow. That's when we become better. We go into what causes us pain and discomfort. And it's like the common thread that I keep going back to in my life.
It makes so much sense, because when we are known, or when you're new to the world, and we're just trying to figure out how life works, how taxes work, how relationships work, how career paths work, right? And that in that sense, we're an unknown, unbeknownst to everything. Everything seems so new to us, and everything seems big and scary, and you make a lot of mistakes, right? And it's you at that moment, it seems to you like it's so hard, it's so difficult, and you're never going to figure it out, right? And what we've mentioned around half an hour ago already was that if you just put one step in front of the next, and no matter what you do and no matter how hard the situation gets, if you just focus on that one simple rule, that you put one foot in front of the next, you will realize that yes, you will have to make hard decisions, yes, it will suck from time to time, but you just going through that, through those uncomfortable, this unknowingness, this is what creates the understanding in your mind that it's not that bad and that you can solve it. And this increases and expands your container of how much you're actually able to hold. Because then you have, because for me, a great example is, for example, Patrick Bet-David. I love listening to Patrick Bet-David, right? Because he's a monster of an entrepreneur, right? He in a recent episode with George Janko, the former guy who used to be on the Impulsive with Logan Paul. He's a really, really great dude, and really love it. He's a cool dude. He's a really nice dude, and I would, for you, maybe I wouldn't recommend to watch because it's not your type. But he mentioned, for example, that an average entrepreneur, before he becomes successful, can you guess how many different domains an average successful entrepreneur has to try out before he hits the home run? Guess. What's the average? And they actually, he referenced that from a study that has been made around.
Yeah, I would say, I don't know, 8 to 12, I don't know, in that range.
The average amount of businesses and domain a successful entrepreneur starts and tries out is around 17 to 19.
Wow.
17 to 19 different domains where you try, you set up, you go all in, you fail, you reiterate, you try out something new, and so on and so on and so on. So what does this teach us in the context of what we're trying to say right now? Is that if you give up, the chances of you winning is 0. If you never try and you give up because you think it's too hard, the chances of you getting anything done in life is equal to 0%. There's a 0% chance that you will become successful if you stop trying. And this, in retrospect, means if you just embrace this pain and you just put one step in front of the next one, and one life situation comes, you handle. Another life situation comes, you handle, but you kind of know that the life situation is happening. Another one comes, you're like, well, I know that this is happening, so maybe I can already prepare myself a little bit, right? And so on and so on and so on. So when that life situation hits for the 10th time, you're like, all right, it's this time of the year again. All right, I'm just going to figure this out right now. I know how to manage this, right?
Yes. And how would you call this skill? Because it is a skill that you're talking about. If you have to put it in so many different contexts and you have to accept that whatever you're facing may fail, how would you call this skill that you just described?
That's a good question.
To me, it's just this resilience to keep moving forward. But it's this fake idea that we have in our mind that we have to move forward in the sense of progress. It's more like movement can be forward, but it can also be, if you look at me, like this. And for me, in my life path,
Explain what you just did with your hand for those who are
so
only
I,
listening.
I wave my hand in different directions, showing like a ball or moving in a pinball inside a pinball machine. Because it's not linear in sense of just forward and you have a relative straight line. That means progress. So basically, if you are whatever it is, and this can be in your career, it can be in your fitness journey, it can be in your whatever it is, finances, it doesn't have to be linear. It just has to be some kind of motion that I think if we add the awareness to, okay, am I learning something? Am I testing something out? I'm not just, like, it's like going to the gym. I just keep using this example because it's the easiest physical one, and trying all the machines in like all the different areas, just moving your hands around. You have to have some sort of education, following someone, mentorship, whatever. But you're doing it with the purpose of what? Of learning. And it's just pure learning does not contain failure. Failure is just a lesson for me. Now I see that, but when I look back in 2019, when I was struggling with being an entrepreneur, not that my business was struggling with Romanian friend, I was stuck in my mindset. If I go back as a lawyer as well, I recognize that point. At the office as well, in my coaching practice, so many times, like coaching has been finding kind of like, who am I talking to, my niche, what do I do, all of those business questions was just constantly going all in, pushing hard, failing, okay, now what, reiterating, up and up and up and up and up. Now I know, now it's easy for me to say that, but I had to go through at least 10 reorientations. And anyway, the point was, just keep moving. It doesn't have to be forward in the sense of direction, of straight line. And that's, I think, the skill that I want to teach David, that I want to teach myself how to practice, because it's all about just experience of how to see it, how to do it, how to make it through, how to face these demons, these challenges, these pains, these people. And you know this as well, because you've done several things as well with your e-com business and all of that. Like,
I've
this
I've
is
I've been to 7 places already, so I have another 11 to go.
exactly. So then
Hopefully,
that's
it's not
the
going to be
journey.
17, but yeah, I've met a lot of rounds. I've done a lot of rounds already, and I'm
But
just trying out. But the cool thing is like now after 10 years, well, no, 8 years of just trying out different things. I'm
yes,
now slowly. I'm not reaching the point yet, and maybe some people they do one thing and it works, and I admire them. That's cool. That's amazing for them, right? They just go
yes,
into
yes,
ecom,
yes,
they go crazy, and they make millions of euros, and that's the only thing that they want to focus on. That's great, but that's not the average, and we shouldn't make it an average, because
yes, yes.
that is something where you were just at the right time with the right skill, and you were grabbing the right opportunity, and that is a blessing, and I appreciate that. But we shouldn't make it an average just because you're trying out things for many years and you're trying to find your own groove, your own vibe, and whatever suits to you. That is a superpower to pull through and just continuously doing and reinventing the wheel for yourself. That is a superpower, man. Like one thing our good friend Jimmy said, actually quite recently last week, because he's he's improving a lot right now in a lot of different areas, but he had some setbacks, and he had a big setback last week, on a big exam that he unfortunately didn't pass again for the second time now. And I asked him, how do you feel, brother? And I love this, and I hope you're listening to this, Jimmy. He's probably not going to listen to this, but I hope whenever he listens to this, I really appreciate him saying this, because I absolutely loved it in that moment. He said, like, you know what? Yes, it sucks, and yes, it hurts, and yes, it's really painful, because I've worked so hard for this.
Mhm.
But you know what? Actually, I know now even better what I've done wrong. And what I've done now is I fell, but I fell forward.
Mhm.
I fell forward, man. Like, I know what I need to work on even harder now, that at a certain point I will make it. But
Mhm.
you just have to fall forwards. Because if every
Exactly.
single time you fall backwards, it's like you're taking
Yes.
one step front, one step back. Well, if you feel like you're falling, try to shift a little bit forward, because everything that you could have you will have gained at that moment is at least a couple of inches, a couple of centimeters, a half a meter when you fall forward and you get up again, you know. And we're
Yes.
getting into this motivation mumbo jumbo, which again, it's very fluid, but I think the essence of it is so powerful. If that, like, pain is the greatest teacher. Failure is something that we should embrace, and it's something that we should welcome, because there is more to learn from failure than to learn from success. And at the same time, it's like, are you constantly increasing and expanding your container, that what you're able to hold? Because the world is a nasty motherfucker from time to time.
Absolutely.
It's a bitch. I'm sorry for the swear words, people, but
No, no,
you know me,
that's
that's just my way
yeah.
of speaking. It's a bitch from time to time, and it's really hard. And when you think everything is going great, that it just proves you wrong. And I've had a great conversation with my friend Daniel yesterday, and afterwards I'll let you comment on whatever you wanted to comment, right? And with Daniel, and it's so interesting how life works, because he is going through the Daniel that I showed to you, Marius, my good friend and coach, and we talked about something interesting, that in his life, his balance at the moment has been shifting from one way to the other. Life is giving him a lot of opportunities, a lot of blessings from above, but at the same time, it's taking from another side. Right? There is never a pure balance, because you get something, but at the same time you're giving something. You're like, life is taking something in exchange for this great gift. And for us at the moment, because I don't want to mention any details, for me and for him, it's in life exactly the opposites. Like, I'm having at the moment a beautiful gift being put into my life, and I appreciate with so much love. But at the other sense side, I'm like struggling on the out. Like, life is taking something here and putting challenges into my way.
Of
It's
course.
it's never ending
Yeah.
harmony, balance. The balance scale is always in motion. It's never static. And I
It's
think that
balancing.
it's balancing always. And I hope it will never stop.
Yeah.
And one last thing I wanted to say, because I know I've been on a rant now, is
A
I saw
beautiful.
a beautiful rant. I really love it too. Is that I saw a quote, that, because I'm thinking about new tattoo ideas, right? Because I feel time, like, there are certain years and times where I'm thinking and considering new ideas to put it, like, tattoo into my body. And there is like this Celtic quote written in runes, and it's actually a quote by I don't remember the half
Okay,
god.
someone.
I don't remember the half god who was punished by Odin and by the gods to constantly, push up the big stone up the mountain.
The safe was it?
Oh, no, sorry. Not this one, but the one who has to.
I know. I
I
know
know
the.
I'm getting this wrong. I know I'm getting this wrong. But
What's the quote?
the quote is that I don't wish for softer sentences. I just wish for a broader back, for a wider back. Just give me a wider back to carry more, instead of, lightening my sentence or lightening the burden that you put up on me. And I think that's such a beautiful saying. I know I'm just paraphrasing. That's not the actual quote,
Yeah. No, but I get you. What does
but
that say to you? What does that mean to you?
it
To wish
means
for a
it means
brother.
it means to me that I don't want to wish for life to be easy, but I wish for myself to be stronger and to be more resilient, and to just have a broader, like a bigger container, to be able to handle life.
Yes, it's really doubling down on our sense of personal responsibility and ability to become stronger, resilient, confident, so on and so forth. Kind of like becoming, I wouldn't call it independent in the sense of separate from the world, but more like being able to, chin up, knees, eyes looking forward and knees straight, so that you can just have this kind of motion, fail forward, move sideways, whatever it is. Because I think It's life is growth, whether you want it, like just look in nature again. So it's we can just choose how to grow. But yeah, I get what you're saying. I think the same way. And again, when you have a kid, a family, this sense of having a bigger back, mentally, physically, emotionally, whatever you want to call it, um, activates. And in a man's journey, I think it's a very, very powerful moment. And in the recent times, I've been reading more about masculine psychology and, you know, like the myths of all men, and Iron John by Robert Bly. And there's this guy, Robert Johnson, who was a short book, The Psychology of He. It's incredible to go into this journey of what it means to be a good man in the world, and in the sense of, you know, a husband, a worker, career, whatever, your service to the world, a person, a father figure, not just to be a biological father, but like a real father figure, you know. And it's a fascinating chapter.
Yeah, it's a
But yeah.
fascinating chapter, man. It's a fascinating chapter, and there is so much more to talk about, man. There is so much more to talk about, and this is what, again, I love. What I love about this podcast. There's just no end to this, and because I feel that slowly we're getting to a point where naturally I would say we're going to round it off, because we've been on some incredible tangents over here. We've had some great topics. We've talked on some. We actually tapped into some really great topics that helped me to grow and that helped me to reflect upon once I get off of this recording, right? And it's always like a double coaching session. And I hope for everyone listening right now, I hope you took some nuggets and some, you know, some essentials out of this conversation with us, because there will be more, and there will be, you know, more hours of us getting into this world together, right? So Marius, I want to really thank you from the bottom of my heart that even after months of trying to plan this and trying to make this happen, we actually did. Because don't you think it has been such a blessing to go through this for the last 1.5 hours? And see, I told you, 1.5 hours is nothing. Like, I know if it wouldn't be 11 o'clock in the evening right now, I would be like, hey, we could go for another 1.5. But yeah, man. So I hope every single one of you enjoyed listening to this right now. Marius, where can people find you if they liked, you know, your way of thinking about life, if they liked your approach to life? And for example, how can people get into contact with you, to maybe even work with you if, you know, they're in need, or they're looking for a coach, or they're looking just for an incredible person to talk to? So please go ahead and, you know, tell the audience where they can find you.
Take me out for a walk.
And
That's my best.
if they're not from Luxembourg,
Come over for a little trip and let's go for a walk. No, for real, like it's I much more enjoy just having, you know, a good walk and a good conversation now, because I think it's so rare, and that's why I enjoy whenever, in the few moments and the few times we get together and talk. Like I also enjoyed our conversations a lot, and it was always good. I'm on himarius.com. It's just that I'm not active on any social media right now, because there's just too much going on in my life, and I don't have the bandwidth for that. It's not a thing. But if you want to reach out, you know, like just hit me up with an email or whatever, just to talk, to ask me a question, because I just love connecting. And it's I'm not sure if I can take on any more people, because I have like the existing people that I wanted to continue working, but I will always be here, you know, like hey, what's up? And give me a screenshot of what it's like when your toddler, because sometimes David takes the phone off of my nightstand, you know, and then he's able to open the camera on the iPhone, you know, like I don't know how he learned that. And the last picture he took was with my face, as I was like, you know, on the pillow, not on the pillow, on the bed sheet. I was like this, like, and then his foot on my face, like. And he took a picture like this, you know, like it's such a.
I will, you know, that I will ask you to send me this picture.
I have no doubt I will, because I have Joanna laughs when she sees it every time, because it's like one of those failed pictures, but it's
Oh
so
my
funny.
God.
Yeah. It's cool.
That would be a reason for me to I'm really looking forward to having children, you know, because I would love to have two people, like one face and one foot in my nose and on my face. I can't wait for that, man. I can't wait for that.
Yeah. It's funny.
Marius,
Like,
I wish you all of the best. Send greetings to King David, to your wife, Joanna. And thank you for coming on today's episode. There will be a part 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, quinzillion coming in the soon and near future.
Don't set your hopes too high, man. It took us 2-3 months, I think, to set this one up. So
Well, if we plan now, I'm gonna get you again in July, so we're all good. Marius, it's been my pleasure. Any last words from your side?
yeah, let's just take it easy, you know, like don't take that's what I'm trying to do, like stop taking myself so serious, accept myself a little more, and you know, accept the imperfect life and journey and all that. Like don't have to be superhuman, we don't have to do everything. There's seasons in life, you know, just as a doer that has a very strong drive and will, sometimes I tend to get lost into wanting too many things and then getting frustrated for not happening. But in the recent year, that's what I've learned, like how to take it easy and just enjoy it a little more. See what I've done so far, how far I've come, and then life is also a lot more beautiful like that. A lot more beautiful. And, yeah, I just wish everyone would just be easier on themselves, because that's what I see, like going on a lot.
I love you, brother. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for spending the last 90 minutes with me. And thank you all for tuning in today's episode of the Journey Beyond podcast. You know how we usually end this, baby. Thank you all for tuning in, and see you in the next one. Ciao, ciao.